Today is Thursday, October the 15th, I believe. I hadn't even looked at the calendar recently, but I'm pretty sure it's the 15th. Yeah, I think it's the 15th. Okay. And I am your host, Casey Phoenix. This is my daily thought. I'm not as extra today as I was yesterday. I did dream this morning, but nowhere near the onslaught that took place yesterday. Nowhere near the onslaught. I think I dreamed about one thing, and I can't even hardly remember what it was. So, and then I know I woke up, went back to sleep, and then that was that. But yeah, nowhere near the onslaught of dreams that hit back to back to back to back to back yesterday. That was crazy. That was crazy. All right. Keeping my fingers crossed. Had to take a sip of water. No lemon water this time. Just regular water. Keeping my fingers crossed this time that this shouldn't be a long episode. I'll go ahead and go straight into it, because I remember having a conversation with someone, and that person was telling me that hold on. Wait a second. Before I go any further, number one, this is an adult episode, because we're talking about stuff. I usually don't do these types of episodes. As a matter of fact, this will be the first episode that I actually categorize as, I guess you could say, explicit, maybe. I don't plan to make this a habit of doing, this type of stuff or discussing certain things. I mean, sometimes, yeah. And I know that sexuality is part of life, but at the same time, I'm not looking to bring it up in the sense of the details all the time. Of course, surface stuff like, oh, such and such is cute or something like that. That's whatever. But the details, that's a whole nother thing. And that's why I'm saying, if you are under the age of 17, you need to click on out of this podcast right now if you are listening, because I know I have listeners all over. So if you're under 17, click on out, because you don't need to be listening to this. This is grown talk. You're not grown yet, at least not in my eyes. So that, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform, KIRWKC on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook.com/KIRWKC. If you're watching this on YouTube or Dailymotion, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, also on YouTube, followed by the notification bell. All right, got that stuff out of the way. I was speaking with someone, and this was a while ago, and we were talking about sexuality, because this individual considered themselves over on one area, but as time went on, things changed. Okay. And I'm being broad because I don't want stuff to get tied to a specific person, at least when I'm talking about somebody. We can get into the detailed stuff as this progresses. All right. So when we had our conversation, that person was like, oh, well, sexuality is fluid. And I was like, okay, I guess some might be able to relate to that. For me, I never looked at it like that before with that conversation, I just always, and still pretty much do, I identify as gay because that's what, I mean, for years and years, or should I say for decades and decades, that's what I've identified as. There have been some women in my life that I've crossed paths with. So, people of the opposite sex that I've crossed paths with, where I was like, okay, maybe, possibly, but not really my thing. And I believe I told you the story. I'm pretty sure I told you the story back a long time ago when I went to the movies. My brother went to see The Bodyguard, and then I went with his girlfriend's brother to go see Cool World because we were kids. We were young and stuff. Well, I was in middle school, and then her little brother was a few years younger than me. So we just went to go see Cool World. But I was sitting next to this girl, and, we chatted it up and stuff. We just connected. And before I knew it, we were holding hands in the movie theater. Mind you, I had just met her. And then, after Cool World had ended, she gave me a kiss on the lips. And I actually felt something, not necessarily in a sexual way, but in a way where it was like, okay, I'm into this girl. All right, maybe there is something here. And she gave me her number, and she wrote it on my hand. And I'll be damned. That ink washed away later. But things happen as they do. Such is life. But I always think about that particular moment. Also, I've been infatuated with some girls. I was infatuated with a girl in high school. Because infatuation is different to attraction. Infatuation, because your attraction deals with sexuality. It deals with wanting to get to know someone not just on a emotional level, but also on a physical level, where there's that attraction, where you're drawn physically to a person. With infatuation, it's more of you're into the persona, you're into the energy of being around that person, but when it comes to the physical, it's not on the top of the list because you're more caught up in the person's essence versus the person physically themselves. So I was infatuated with someone, which she was beautiful, and I'm sure she still is, which her birthday, she's February. I don't know what it is with me and Aquarians. But yeah. And as the years went on and as the years go by, I think about the conversation that I had with that individual saying, hey, sexuality is really fluid. Some people are just more fluid than others. There are guys out there who don't want a relationship with another guy. But they might sleep with another guy. Or they refuse to sleep with another guy, but they'll let another guy give them oral sex. Because some because I've heard this before from some other guys, like a mouth is a mouth, even though I don't necessarily look at it like that, but it's whatever. But yeah, some have that a mouth is a mouth attitude, and they'll just keep the experience quiet, or as some people say, DL, and do that. So, and it's the same thing with women, where another woman might not be open to giving oral, but she may be open to receiving oral from another woman. Or when it comes to threesomes, she may be open to having another woman in the bedroom, and then things happen as they may. That's where one has to determine how fluid it is. And the same thing with men too, because there's been situations where it's been two men and a woman, and sometimes the two men do certain things up to a point with each other while being with the woman. So it's difficult, especially now, to put people in boxes. To say, oh, well, either you're this or you're that, or you have to be this or you have to be that, or if you've always liked this, you can never like that, or if you never like that, you can never like this, or whatever. Because, as I've said before many times throughout this show, as our lives change, so do our needs. I know people who have been in relationships and dated people of the same sex, but then they turn around and get married to someone of the opposite sex. I know people who have dated people of the same sex, got married to someone of the opposite sex, got divorced, and then started back dating the same sex, or started dating the same sex and the opposite sex, and everything is just all over the place. And old me used to, I won't say judge, because I don't like judging people. That's not my thing. Especially, I always tell people, everyone has too much stuff in their life to judge someone. You can have an opinion, but judging is something different. Even though the literal term of judging talks about having an opinion in the definition, but I don't categorize it as that. I don't define it as that. I define it differently. And I said I was going to explain that one day, and I will. But there was a time when I had an opinion about people who I know were fast and loose with the same sex, but then things turn around and then they're married to the opposite sex. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's different. But as the years go by, I can understand how some people might do that. For me, I'm funny about dating someone who's really fluid. And by really fluid, one might categorize as bisexual. Because me, I like to be the only one. I don't like to compete. So when you're dealing with someone who's really fluid, you're not competing against just one sex. You're competing against both sexes. So you're competing against men and women. And I don't like to compete. I like for it to be a thing of, I need to know that I'm the one that you want. And I don't want to have to think about, oh, well, is he looking at her? Or is he looking at him? Is he looking at everybody? Wait a minute, what's going on? I don't like to be in that mindset, because for me, if I have to be in that mindset, I don't even want to be in a relationship with that individual. I don't even want to date. And not saying that people who are extremely fluid, that's a negative thing about them. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, for me personally, it is rare I date someone who's extremely fluid. I'd rather them be on one side or the other, or if I'm dealing with someone just on a physical level, I'd rather it be where, okay, they're a little bit fluid. Because I've had those situations, as I mentioned before on my episode, should you sleep with someone who's married, where, unknowingly. And that, is a physical thing. I'm not looking for much. So yeah, you can stay over there on that fence. And if we meet up from time to time, that's that. If your other signed off on it. Because like I said, both times I found out after the fact, but that's a whole nother thing. And you can watch that episode to get the update on that situation. But when it comes to relationships, I'd rather someone just be just a little bit fluid. If they don't even have to be fluid at all, we just want the same thing, then that's cool. But I don't think people should put other people in boxes. I don't think that is the thing of now, especially in this day and age, that when it comes to sexuality, because people, they like what they like. And it's a thing of, some people say just because it's good to you doesn't mean it's good for you. That can be debated. Just like the religious aspect of it, that can be debated. But honestly, the people who get the most grief when it comes to being sexually fluid are men. Women don't get that type of grief at all. Some people might be like, oh, yeah, what? Yeah. But when it comes to men, it's like everyone jumps back when they find out that maybe a man slept with another man. And it's all because of what is thought to take place between two men in the bedroom. And I honestly believe that if people didn't assume certain things, the taboo and the curiosity of two men in the bedroom wouldn't be that big of a deal. Because they just automatically assume, they're like, oh, well, that person's gay, so they must do this. And it's like, I know people who are not that fluid, who could be, I guess, categorized, old term, categorized as gay, but they don't do certain things. They won't, because they're not into certain things. And it can be like that. Every individual is different. But when it comes to the actual sex, people are like, oh, well, because of how two men have sex, oh, well, that's disgusting. It can be dirty and da-da-da-da. And I always tell people, cleanliness is not a gay thing or a straight thing. Cleanliness is a human thing. There are plenty of stories, and I have, like I said, I've talked to people literally all around the world, and I'm not saying that to brag. It's just, it is what it is. I've talked to people literally all around the world. And I have heard horror stories about the cleanliness of some women because I've dealt with people who would be categorized as straight, gay, bi, tri, whatever you want to categorize them as, from the minimal fluid to the maximum fluid. I've dealt with them, spoke to them all, and just living life and talking, because you talk to people, you meet people, you chat with people, you learn things. And I've heard stories about women who don't handle their cleaning well. So, and that's not saying that all women are like that, obviously not. But as I said before, cleanliness is not a gay thing or a straight thing. Cleanliness is a human thing, because there are women who can be unclean, who don't keep themselves up, and there can be men who are unclean and don't keep themselves up. But one thing I can tell you is that when it comes to men who deal with certain things, especially those who categorize themselves as quote unquote bottoms or whatever, like true bottoms. And for those who don't know, for the class today, bottoms are those who receive. With the true bottoms, they usually go out of their way to make sure that they are ridiculously clean. My ex that I dealt with, the one that I told you that came up to see me when I wasn't feeling well last week and stuff, my ex is ridiculously clean. As in, I would put him up against a female any day of the week, because he does what he needs to do to make sure that everything is on point. Not that my ex and I are having sex, because we haven't had sex since last year. I haven't had sex with anybody this year because I haven't been in the mood. So, but people just automatically assume that, oh, it's two men, oh my God, it's nasty. They must have stuff everywhere and da-da-da. No, it's not like that. I'm not saying there aren't dirty men out there who don't know how to cleanse their bodies properly. I'm not saying that. Just like I'm not saying there aren't dirty women out there who don't know how to cleanse their bodies properly. But when it comes to sexuality being fluid, some people, like I said, they just like to touch. They don't even like to have intercourse with their type of fluid. They would just rather touch, rub, tug, and then call it a day and go on about their business. So, yeah, putting people in boxes, it just, when it comes to sexuality, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I can't say that I would never do anything with the opposite sex. I can say that it would be rare. It'd be very rare. It would have to be like, there would have to be a whole bunch of boxes checked for me to even go down that road. And odds are, I probably won't. Odds are I probably won't. And I know if I wanted to, I could. If I wanted to, I could. But I doubt it. I wouldn't even take myself down that road. Not saying that it's impossible, but yeah, I'm somewhat fluid, but not that fluid for me. So yeah, that's all I have. I told you, I keep it short. It's only, we're at 25 minutes. Not bad. I didn't end up doing like 40 minutes. I think I did 40 minutes yesterday. So yeah, sexuality is fluid. And that's all I have. That is my daily thought. Thank you to those who have been watching, listening, supporting, subscribing, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. I appreciate it. Looking so forward to all the new things that are coming in the next few weeks. I'm just waiting to get everything done, and I'm waiting for Mercury to get out of retrograde. So, looking forward to it. I love you guys. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. KIRWKC on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/KIRWKC. YouTube Daily Motion. Hit the subscribe button. That way you will know when I upload new videos. Until next time, be blessed.